Kitty Kill, Mel, good evening. Let's go. Good evening and welcome to tonight's trivia. Tonight we are playing trivia on the Zodiac Killer, Zodiac Murders. I hope we all had a wonderful weekend. Lori Sutton, good evening. Welcome. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Give a couple minutes for people to join us. Good evening, Pigeon Mac, Cement Shoes, and Carly. Good evening and welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hope everyone had a good weekend. It's been pretty strange for me. Didn't have anybody around at all, just me. Short and Eyes, good evening. Mary Frederick, Moonlight View, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All my entire family's on vacation across the United States in West Virginia. They went there for the Mothman Festival and left me here. Yours has been weird too, Mel? Hard week. Hope yours was good. It was good, relaxing. I mean, I cleaned my entire house and did everything on Wednesday, and I didn't have anything to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Saturday, I had the live stream in the morning, but that was it. Left to my own devices to do whatever the heck I wanted. Try to get caught up on work. Did that. 13-hour workday. Woo. Hi, all. Good evening, Steph, and welcome to tonight's trivia. Tammy Hall. I just moved back to West Virginia. I hope they Point Pleasant. You know, to tell you the truth, I don't know where they are in West Virginia. I would guess that's where the Mothman Festival is. I do get everything done while everyone is away, then chill. Dorothy Larkin, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. It's been a while since I've looked into the Zodiac Killer. Well, hopefully we'll be able to learn something new tonight. A little bit of trivia about, and facts about the Zodiac Killer and the murders behind it, people attached to it. Get another minute and a half, and then we're going to get started. Marina, good evening. All the questions that are rated on a scale of 1 to 10, and all of the questions, including the 2 bonus questions tonight, they're all level 5. They're right in the middle. They're not too hard, not too easy, but they're right in the middle of the trivia questions. I don't know anything about the Zodiac Killer. Colleen, 41, good evening. Welcome. Starfire, been a long time since I heard anything about it. Well, the Zodiac murder and the case itself is still open. The FBI and the Department of Justice are the only ones with an open, active case on the Zodiac murders. The state of California, where all the murders took place, actually calls it an open case, but a cold case. It is not actively, still trying to find the Zodiac Killer. It's a cold case. They believe if the Zodiac Killer is still around today, the Zodiac Killer would be in his early or mid 90s by now. So I was living in the Bay Area during that time. Church of POS, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I can remember people being terrified to go out, especially at night. Yeah, good evening, Scott B. Welcome to tonight's trivia. All right, we're going to get this party started. The Zodiac Killer Trivia is tonight. Okay, I have to actually say this because I stream to multiple different platforms besides just YouTube. I am currently streaming to 6 different platforms that you can watch this. Click on a link and watch it or watch it live. But viewer discretion is strongly advised for any content that you find on this true crime channel. The content that I put out is not meant for all audiences, and it's not meant for anyone under the age of 13. If someone is watching it and you're under the age of 13, good luck. Okay? And that's on you. Telling me in the comment section, the trolls do, they love to tell me I'm 12 and I watched it. No, you're logged on as somebody else, and that's not my fault. But anyways, viewer discretion is strongly advised. This is a little bit of background on this. We play are only for fun. No one is any better at this game than others. Some people may use the internet to Google the actual questions themselves. Others may actually know the information, while others use what I call deductive reasoning. Well, I don't think it's A or B. I think it's either C or D, and then they take a guess at it. No one is any better. Hateful or disrespectful comments towards another person playing this game will not only get you timed out, it will get your ass banned from participating in any content that I put out. And I absolutely mean that. There's a total of 18 questions. That is including 2 bonus questions. Normally, the bonus questions I come up with myself, but tonight all 18 questions come from Trivia Boss. That's where all 18 of the questions come from tonight. These questions are not exploitative of the victims or family. This is being done for educational purposes only. I am not exploiting other people by using their names. If their names are used in it, they have already given free right to their name to be put out there, and the stratosphere. So let's get the party started. Question number 1. After more than 50 years, countless people working to break the Zodiac code, the cipher he used in letters, what year was the code finally broken? Looking for the year for the famous 340 cipher, because there's more than one. What year was the 340 cipher actually broken? Was it A, 1999, B, 2000, C, 2020, or D, 2010? We are looking for what year the 340 cipher was actually broken. Got some B's and some C's. Tammy and Mary are going with B. Dorothy Larkin, B. The Church of POS. Probably. You never know. Starfire going with B. What year was the 340 cipher actually broken? Starfire B. Hello, Inner Peas. If I didn't say hello earlier, I'm sorry if I missed you. Summit Shoes is going with C. Oh my God. I think it's D. I can't remember. E. Lemon Pie's going with E. 340. Sal, good evening, Sal. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I picked B, but I'm sticking with that. Janice is going with C. What year was the 340 cipher broken? Actually figured out. What year was that one broken? Steph is going to copy you, Kitty Coo. Howdy, I'm Ted, expert. So this isn't my wheelhouse. I'm a TED expert, Ted Bundy. Good evening, Justin LD. Ted Bundy. I'm hoping that's who you're referring to. I didn't know it had been broken. Duh. All right, question number one. The 340 cipher was broken in C in the year 2020 by Sam Cook, David Orchek, Carl Van Eyck, I think is how you pronounce it, or Ike, using three internet sleuths using the supercomputer. And I believe in Melbourne, Australia, they are able to finally break the second code. The very first code was broken by a school teacher who, well, that was actually a really easy one to break, but law enforcement couldn't break it. But I say it was really easy on the scale. But the second one was broken in 2020 using the supercomputer, and I think it was Melbourne, Australia, is where they put the input it into. And it had like 340,000 different possibilities, and the only one that actually made any sense was breaking it using the supercomputer, and that was in the year 2020. What did it say? Steph, there were two parts that I don't know the whole thing, but it basically said, I hope you're having fun trying to catch me. It made fun of the San Francisco Police Department, but when they broke it, they were hoping that that they'd be able to use that cipher to break the other ones, and and that somewhere in the cipher it would have the name of the Zodiac. No cipher has ever been discovered that that has been broken to this point that actually says who the Zodiac is. But it was basically it made fun of the San Francisco Police Department and how they bumbled the case. All right, going on to question 2. Watched or read much of the Zodiac, so this is interesting. We've all been to Dahmers to death lately, so what can you do? Yeah. Question number 2. Unlike a lot of serial killers and spree killers that have been named by reporters or TV stations or newspapers, who actually gave the Zodiac killer his nickname? Was it A, he gave it to himself, B, he was given it by a victim who survived, C, a police officer gave it to him, or D, an EMT, an emergency medical technician, gave it to the killer? Where did the Zodiac, the name Zodiac Killer, actually come from? Zodiac, the movie with Jake Gyllenhaal, that Carly, that was based on Robert Graysmith's book, the movie, and he released it back in the 80s, and then they wrote the script, the movie script for it that Jake Gyllenhaal was in much later on, but and then they did a movie tie-in with the movie and book, but that was based on Robert Graysmith's book. If you can find one of the original Robert Graysmith's hardcover edition, first editions, they commonly sell online for $100 to $150 for one of the original first edition hardcover books. Not the movie tie-in, just the original book by Robert Graysmith. Oh, Sal, you gotta watch it. The Zodiac movie with Gyllenhaal was a very good movie. It had the what was that guy's name? He was on What's My Line? He was also on not Drew Carey. He was on the Drew Carey show. I can't remember what his name is, and it escapes me. But he played the Zodiac. Well, he played the person they thought was the Zodiac. I can't remember what his name is though. I'm sure somebody will find it. I'll keep my eye out at garage sales. Yeah, I've sold quite a few of them over the years, Carly. Quite a few. Lemon Pie, good evening. Scott Thompson, thank you. I think it was Thompson something, Scott Thompson. But he was on. He did some guest appearances on What's My Line, but he was also on the Drew Carey show. Very good actor. I was hoping that whatever happened to him, he didn't get typecast after that. Robert Downey Jr. All right, question number 2. The correct answer is A as in apple. He gave himself the name the Zodiac Killer. That unlike a lot of serial killers and spree killers that are named by the media, he gave himself the name, and when he wrote letters, not cryptographs or ciphers, that he sent to the media and to the police department taunting them, he always started off I shouldn't say always, he started off most of the letters, "This is the Zodiac Killer speaking." He started off the letters that way. But he gave himself the name, the Zodiac Killer. Mimi from Drew Carey show, yeah, right. She was awesome. Cleveland rocks. Cleveland rocks. Did Cleveland win today? That's something. In the NFL, I guess. I don't think the baseball team was playing today, do they? Yeah, baseball season's still going. All right. Did you know the role of Scorpio in the movie Dirty Harry, starring Clint Eastwood, was based on the Zodiac Killer, played by Andy Robinson? On top of that, in the actual movie, they used actual copies of the Zodiac letters. In 2 scenes in the movie, you can actually see photocopies of the Zodiac's letters. Now, they were photocopied, and then they trimmed the edges to cut them down to make them shorter, because you have to think of the technology back then for making copies. But they actually used Zodiac letters that were sent to the San Francisco Chronicle and in the actual movie as a prop in the actual Dirty Harry movie. And then particularly the one letter where he said that he was going to blow up a school bus full of children. But that was actually used in the movie as a prop. All right, next question. In the second letter written to the San Francisco Chronicle, he was upset he wasn't getting the press coverage he wanted. What did he say he would do next? Was it A, kill again that night? B, kill before the week was done? C, blow up a school bus full of children? Or D, kill the mayor? Never saw the movie, Mel? My lawyer is one of the only survivors of the Zodiac. Very good man. Who's your lawyer? Mel, whatever his name is? Mel something other? Justin LD is a C, I think. No, not Dirty Harry. C's, we got some B's. Marina and Starfire going with C. In the second letter written to the San Francisco Chronicle, he was upset he wasn't getting the press coverage he wanted. What did he say he would do next? Mel, I guess C. Carly and Marina, they're going with C. And with Starfire, Steph, C's, a bunch of C's. His name is Brian Hartnell. Brian Hartnell, wasn't he? He's one of, yeah, he was one of the survivors of the Zodiac. I didn't know he became an attorney. Well, that's good to know. Moonlight View. And by the way, Moonlight, my name is Will. W-I-L-L. Will. But thank you for letting me know. I always wondered what happened to Brian. It's tragic that, what he went through. E, driving a Yugo with a meth head mountain lion. All right, question 3. The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is C as in cat. Just like I gave you the clue right there. C as in cat, that he was going to blow up a school bus full of children because they weren't publishing his letters in the San Francisco Chronicle. That was one of his demands, is he wanted press coverage for what he was doing. They talked about it on the evening news. They talked about his crimes briefly, but you only get so much soundbite. He wanted to be in the paper, and he wanted them to put his letters in the paper. And because they weren't giving him the press coverage, he said he was going to blow up a school bus full of children. All right, going on to the next one. What is the symbol the Zodiac killer took that appears on his chest and in every creepy letter he sent to the press? It looks like a crosshair, but it's not. And you have to remember what the actual real symbol looks like, not the one that's on the chest of the character that's on the screen. The actual symbol that he drew on his letters themselves. Was it A, a Greek symbol of life, B, a sun cross or Celtic cross, C, a pirate symbol for treasure, or D, a compass? What was the symbol that appeared on the Zodiac killer's chest and all of his letters? Because obviously, when it comes to like people drawing pictures like this, they take artistic liberty with how they depict what the symbol looked like. Nasty fellow. Yeah. Digimac question mark. A, Colleen. A, Marina. B, Dorothy Larkin. B, Justin's going with B or D, not A or C. Come on. Good evening. Kitty Q is going with D and Carly's going with A. What is the symbol the Zodiac killer took that appears on his chest in every letter he sent to the press? D, you sure? Mel's going, I'll take A. Yeah, I'm going with B. No, I'm not. Thank you for putting the link on there, Interpiece. I appreciate that. Everybody go check out Gemma's channel. All right, question number 4. The correct answer is B as in boy, a sun cross or Celtic cross. It's really close to both of them. The only difference is the line that goes from the top to the bottom should be longer. And in most of the Zodiac's letters, that line is definitely longer than the one that goes from left to right. So it's either closer to a sun cross or a Celtic cross. And this actually is a clue that comes up in multiple of his letters, is the Zodiac. If you look how the Zodiac looks, whoever the person was behind Zodiac, and the FBI knew this as one of the clues, they were very much into mythology and into like dramatic writings and folklore. Excuse me. But either a sun cross or a Celtic cross, which are very similar. Dee Dee, good evening. I hope I didn't miss anybody else. All right, next. Did you know there were several fake cipher letters sent to law enforcement and the media? One letter was really interesting from the rest. The actual cipher used in it was unlike any others. It was 100% based on Lakota Native language and U.S. Navy symbols. Now, when I say Lakota, I'm talking about Lakota symbols, not actual like written like alphabet. Okay, so to be clear, there, Lakota Native American language and U.S. Navy symbols. The author of this fake cipher has never been caught, but it was one of the most interesting of all the fakes. Now, in that actual letter, this letter was actually deciphered years later, but the person was trying to say that it in the letter, using it, that it was, how do I put this? They were trying to place blame on somebody who is already incarcerated, not somebody who hadn't been arrested, or where they could connect them through that way. But it was somebody who was already incarcerated. This encrypted cipher said it was this person, which they already know couldn't have been, because the person was incarcerated at the time that two of the known Zodiac murders took place. But they tried to place blame on somebody else through a cipher, and they tried to say that they were the real Zodiac contacting them. So they know that this letter was not from them. But it was one of the most interesting ones, though. Code talker. I think though the code talkers weren't they Cherokee or Lakota? I can't remember, but they didn't have like a written. Well, they had a written language, but all right. Question 5: which one from below was a surviving victim of the serial killer known as the Zodiac, who lived in fear of the Zodiac killer for years after the attack? Was it A, Darlene Ferrin, B, Brian Hartnell, C, Cecilia Shepard, or D, Michael McGew? I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure. I'm probably butchering that. Plains Indians in general used symbols. There's some really cool caves in the Wyoming, North Dakota, just outside of Yellowstone, that you can go see. I mean, I'm sure. Well, I'm not even sure if you can get to them now. They probably closed them all off. The park rangers that had, and the U.S. government did, because a lot of people didn't even know they were there. These caves were found by, what do they call them, splunkers or whatever. I think what you call those people, those cave people, splunkers, or am I thinking of something else? But these people are cave explorers, basically. They find caves and they go explore them and they map them, and it's like, hey, let's get ourselves wedged in a place and die. But they didn't even know that these cave paintings and writings were not only painted on the walls, but they were etched into these walls. It's outside of, it's in Wyoming, I think it is. Because I was in Yellowstone, leaving Yellowstone, and I went to it. Spelunking. Wyoming is rad. Minus the having. I liked Wyoming. If I was going to live anywhere in Wyoming, though, I'd probably live in Cheyenne. But the weather there is pretty much like where I live now. So if I move anywhere, I'm moving someplace cooler, because this heat sucks, especially in the summertime. The winds are no help. I forgot to turn the AC back on. I turned it off earlier to shoot a video over on the other side of the studio, and I turned it off. Deadly Queens. Hello, Will and mods and chatters. Hope y'all good. Good. Welcome to tonight's trivia. Deadly Queen. It's brutal weather. I like it here. You get rain there. Move to Alaska, Will? No. No. If I move anywhere, I'm going to move back to Wisconsin. I mean, I already have a home there. I already have the farm. My sister's, son lives there. So my nephew lives on the farm. He doesn't farm, but he just lives in the farmhouse. We have to have somebody there to take care of it. Otherwise, it'd fall apart and people would steal things from the farm. So someone's got to be there to kind of keep control of the place. Been busy? Well, I'm glad you can make it tonight. Frontier Days in Cheyenne. Question number 5. The correct answer for question 5 is D as in dog. And for some reason, it actually, and I don't know if you guys can tell this, but the D font is for some reason a little tinier than the other. And I just noticed that. But Michael lived in fear of the Zodiac coming back after him for years after the attack. I'm sure, whose attorney is Brian Hart now. I'm sure Brian probably had some horror, some nightmares over the Zodiac as well. Wisconsin rocks. Yeah, it's a pace of life, quality of life that I don't experience out here on the West Coast. People don't understand that when I tell them that. Yeah, on the West Coast, life moves at a much faster pace. Even though I'm still the same person. At least I hope I haven't changed over the years. I say hello to people. 9 times out of 10, people just look at you. You hold the door open for someone, they never say thank you here. Back home, you do it and you don't even think about it. You just say hello to people. You open the door for people. You're courteous and kind, and I don't see that out here on the West Coast, at least not where I live. I'm sure there are places that are nicer than where I live, but here everybody's like go 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 go. Got to get that next dollar. Family values and everything else are out the window. For most families here. So, but that's just my little rant there. All right, moving on to the next one. Question 6. The sketch you see here is based on the surviving victim account, who described the outfit the Zodiac killer was wearing down to the shoes. Who was it? Who actually described the Zodiac killer that this picture is based off of? Is it A, David Faraday, B, Michael Magu, or C, Sam Cooke, or D, Brian Hartnell? Question 6. Can't imagine living in an era of good neighbor. Common values don't really exist. They do, Mel. I teach family values in my house, and my daughter is growing up to be one hell of a young woman, and I'm raising my son that way. It's just the general public outside, everywhere that we go. It's just different, and if I sit, my wife, my daughter, mother-in-law, my niece, my nephew, or along with my son, they're all went back to West Virginia, and they said the very first thing that kind of shocked my son when they got there was when they pulled up to the hotel, that somebody opened the door for him. He thought that was kind of strange that somebody would hold the door open at the hotel for him. That just doesn't happen. Here, it's either automated doors or nobody's going to get the door for you at all. Yeah, but not everyone is like me. That is absolutely true. Hey, something to talk about. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. I wish it was different, though. But if I was going to move anywhere, I would move back home. I don't think I'll ever convince my wife to move there. And as long as her parents are still alive, she doesn't want to move too far from them. And I don't blame her, really. I guess I'm lucky to live where I do. Yeah. I mean, there's little pockets probably here and there in my area that where there are people that are nice. I just don't see it. And I wish I did. West Virginians are very, very, very well mannered. Yeah. Cali Lisa. Okay, I'm here. My Cowboys won 30 to, oh, they stomped. Who are they playing? Cincinnati? They moved from Cali 4 years ago. Way different. Mississippi. 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 One of the first words that when we were little kids, we lived on the Mississippi River. We lived on the Mississippi and where the St. Croix come together. And even as a little kid, little, I mean, I'm like 4, 5 years old, somewhere in there, maybe younger. You learn to spell Mississippi, Mississippi. You put it like a jingle in your head. Mighty Mississippi. We beat the Jets. Is that who they stopped? I know CC Lamb had himself one hell of a game. I know that much. Last time I looked at it earlier, I think he had like 150 some yards in that game. All righty, question number 6. The correct answer is D. Brian Hartnell. The description of the Zodiac killer came particularly from Brian Hartnell, whoever's attorney that was. I don't go out much, but I'm really weird folks when I do. Yeah. Tennessee, the best that we know. But the Zodiac, again, back to the Zodiac day, and there's other victims. It's what they took. They took Brian's description. They took the descriptions of 2 other people plus one woman who was She was kidnapped, and she thought that she was that by the Zodiac, and she jumped from the car. And so they used all of those, composites. But the very first description that they based what the Zodiac looked like, height wise, build of body, and everything else came from Brian Hartnell, like who apparently is an attorney now. Didn't know what happened to him. Very little information out there on what happened to all the victims. There are victims that did survive, not a lot, but a couple. Did you know from 1974 to 1989, a series of murders up and down the California coast were believed to be the work of the Zodiac killer, Robert Graysmith, who wrote the book Zodiac, the first book on the Zodiac, which the movie is based on, as we discussed earlier, believed that these were clearly the Zodiac's bodies, that the Zodiac actually killed them. Law enforcement, though, didn't agree and never investigated them as such. Murders between 1974 and 1989. The modus of operandus all matched the Zodiac. But in those, there were no survivors. They were all murders. And they were either dispatched in the same way, or the same type of evidence was left behind, shoe prints or some other type of forensic evidence that could connect those murders to the Zodiac, were ignored by law enforcement because they believed that it wasn't the Zodiac killer. And that is a huge issue because there were a lot of mistakes made in the investigation of the actual Zodiac murders themselves. And the Zodiac killer himself, in a letter to the San Francisco Chronicle and to the police department, spoke about one such bumbling mistake when they came and they were looking. They said that they put out an all points bulletin that said that they were looking for an African American man. And he referenced that in the letter, that the San Francisco Police Department were a bunch of bumbling idiots, that they let him walk away. They were that close to actually have caught him. All right, next. They talked to him. Yes, they did. Question 7. From the early days of the investigation into the Zodiac killings, law enforcement believed he had connections to the U.S. military. Either was active in service or was in the past. Which one did they believe it was? Was it the U.S. Army, the Marine Corps, the U.S. Space Force, or the U.S. Navy? And yes, ladies and gentlemen, the United States Space Force is a real branch of the United States military now. Claudia, Rebecca, good evening and welcome. And my peeps, good evening. Welcome to tonight's trivia. From the early days of the investigation into the Zodiac killings, law enforcement believed he had a connection to the U.S. military, either was an active in service or was in the past. Which one did they believe it was? U.S. UFO division. Moonlight View? No idea. Maybe it's the Navy. Who knows? We'll find out in a little bit here. Which branch of service did they believe? We can thank President Trump for the Space Force. Yeah. I didn't put the Air Force on there. Army, Marines, Space Force, or Navy? Dishwasher at Area 51. That's funny, Tammy. That made me laugh. With Bob Lazar. Area 51. Reverse engineering spacecraft in their technology while washing dishes. From the early days of the investigation, they believed the Zodiac had connections to military. Which branch of service was it? Starfire is going with B. All right, question 7, ladies and gentlemen. The correct answer is D as in dog. They believe that whoever the Zodiac killer was either really familiar with the United States Navy or had served in the United States Navy at some point. If you ever get a chance to see actual copies, real copies, now you need to make sure that you're looking at the original stuff. If you see actual Zodiac letters themselves, you will find nautical symbols throughout the Zodiac letters, the ciphers, and nautical references in the letters that he wrote to the different newspapers in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. But there are nautical references, in the letters and in the ciphers themselves, the first two ciphers, okay? But they believe that he was in the Navy, not a Marine. Shucks. Well, the Navy and the Marines are pretty much connected. So, all right. Question 8. Robert Graysmith, a political cartoonist, that's how he started off, was a political cartoonist, and author, wrote the now famous book Zodiac in 1986. He would spend the rest of his life trying to prove who was the Zodiac killer. Was it A, Arthur Lee Allen, B, David Allen Coe, C, Bob the Mountain Lion, or D, David Allen Ray? Robert Graysmith, the cartoonist, political cartoonist and author, wrote the now famous book Zodiac Killer in 1986. He would spend the rest of his life trying to prove who was the Zodiac killer. Nautical, not naughty. Anchors away. Arthur Lee Allen, David Allen Coe, Bob the Mountain Lion, or D. David Allen Ray? Question 8. Popeye the Sailor Man. Doot doot. Richard Nixon. Good old Tricky Dicky. Tricky Dicky probably did it. On to B. Good evening and welcome to tonight's trivia. Sorry if I missed you earlier. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. Mel Stiller has no idea. There's been at least 8 suspects, so are any of those suspects listed on the screen? Kitty Coo? I bet you it's C. That's my guess. Bob the Mountain Lion. You know those mountain lions, they do a lot of dangerous things. My peeps is going with A. So is Janice, especially Bob. Yeah. If you're a mountain lion and you're named Bob, you're pretty dangerous. You got a name. You're not just riding around in a Yugo smoking meth. You're Bob the Mountain Lion. You're pretty damn dangerous because you've got a name. Elvis Presley's ghost. All right, question 8. The correct answer is A as in apple. Arthur Lee Allen. He spent the rest of his life trying to prove that Arthur Lee Allen, the only formal suspect that the FBI ever named, was a prime suspect in the Zodiac killings, was Arthur Lee Allen. They never named anyone else. Now, the San Francisco Police Department screwed up and arrested one other individual who wasn't it. And then there's been a lot of speculation out there of others who may have been the Zodiac killer. And there have been a lot of people who said that they knew who the Zodiac killer was. But the only one that the FBI ever named as a prime suspect in the Zodiac murders was Arthur Lee Allen. If they couldn't find the Zodiac, of course. All right. That is 8 questions, ladies and gentlemen. If you're new here, we now take a 6-minute break. In 6 minutes, we will start the trivia on question number 9. Do what you need to do. Take a break. Use the bathroom. Get something to eat. Make yourself a cup of tea. Do whatever you need to do for the next 6 minutes. Oop. Whew, my goofiness needs a break. Smoke them if you got them. Smoke them if you got them. If you enjoy this trivia, give it a thumbs up. If you're new here and you want to follow along and make sure you're notified of the next trivia, we play every Sunday night at the same time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So subscribe. That way you'll be given notification. At least YouTube says that they will. or you can just write it on your calendar. 4 p.m. every Sunday. They play live trivia on YouTube. I'm starving and have no idea what to eat. Time to load the dishwasher. There you go. Got a little over 4 minutes left. Ooh, I have deviled eggs. There you go. Did you make them yourself, Tammy? Deviled eggs? My peeps has got pizza. There you go. I won't have dinner until after this is all over with, and then after I answer emails. So I always eat dinner late on Sundays, and I try to eat something light. Every year for Thanksgiving and for Christmas dinner, I'm always in charge of making the deviled eggs. It's not the recipe that I like, but basically I half the eggs, hard boiled. Then all the yolks go into a bowl. We use real mayonnaise, paprika, ground mustard, pickle relish that my mother-in-law makes homemade. That all gets mixed together along with a little salt, little pepper, and then I put it into a piping bag, and then I pipe it back into the halves of the eggs. Now we have anywhere from 14 to 19 people who come to either Thanksgiving or to Christmas dinner. So it's more of not the quality necessarily. It is the quantity. I mean, they're good. It's not my favorite recipe, but that's the recipe that they like. So it's kind of on a little bit on the bland side. I used to put dill in mine, or sprinkle dill on top, or some kind of contrasting color along with the paprika. But they go a lot less on it because they have to make it bland so more people can eat them, because some people can't take spice, and some people like more, and some people put Tabasco on them. They can flavor them however they want. I'm at my friend's house right now. Corn on the cob, yum. Ooh, there's nothing like fresh corn on the cob. You had me at food, says Pigeon Mac. Deviled eggs with chicken. You do not like sweet pickles? The relish that my mother-in-law makes, she makes it from pickles that she picks from her own garden, and she then cans them. Well, not cans them, puts them in jars. Ball and kern, cur jars. So she makes her own. It's sweet, but it's not like the over the top sweetness like you would get as a mini dill sweet pickle in the store. They're not nowhere near that sweet. They just have just a little bit of sweetness to them. I like the peppers that she cans. Those are the absolute bomb. But she won't give me the recipe. She says someday when she's no longer here, I can have her recipe book. It's a hell of a way to get the recipe book, but all right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Back to the next question. Question number 9. Homemade pickles, yummy. Crisp sweet pickle. onion, real mayo, mustard. Ooh, there you go. I need some dill or Cuban sandwiches. Oh, I had a really good Cuban sandwich this past week. All right. Question number 9. Time to address the elephant in the room. People who have followed the Zodiac killings closely believe that Arthur Lee Allen was the Zodiac killer. Or who else? Who was the other person? So we know the FBI named one individual as the prime suspect. Who did the San Francisco Chronicle say and the San Francisco Police Department say was the Zodiac killer? Was it A, Angelo Bruno Jr., B, Wayne Allen Ford, C, Gary Francis Post, or D, William Bonin? Who did the San Francisco Police Department and the San Francisco Chronicle name as the possible person who was the Zodiac killer? FBI only officially named one individual as the possible Zodiac killer, and that was Arthur Lee Allen. But who was the only other person who was officially named a suspect by the San Francisco Police Department and then, in turn, the actual San Francisco Chronicle? Question number 9. Barry Morphew. Good one, Cement Shoes. Tammy, Mr. Snuffleupagus. Oh, no. Have you ever seen the Robot Chicken episode of Sesame Street, Tammy, where Mr. Snuffleupagus, well, first off, Big Bird is dying, and Big Bird is talking to Mr. Snuffleupagus, but of course, Mr. Snuffleupagus doesn't exist, and then vanishes from the emergency room. Oh no, Big Bird, you're gonna die. Surprised it wasn't Jack. Dom DeLuise. Dom, one of my favorite movies with Dom DeLuise, and I mean he was funny in a lot of different things, but I loved him as the crazy nutcase in the Cannonball Run movie with Burt Reynolds, where he played the whacked out mental patient in the back of the ambulance, but also his friend and co-driver. Mel's going with Gary Francis Post. Frutos Dulos. Was fantastic. Yeah, that was a great movie. I got to meet a couple of guys that actually participated in the real Cannonball Run. I want to say they might have done it in the 90s. I met him at a Cars and Coffee event. I heard a rumor it was Cement Shoes. Ooh, Mel is in the house. Good evening, Mel. You never know. I mean, the Zodiac killer could be alive and could be here in the stream right now. I mean, the Zodiac killer would be really old, but he could be here. We don't know. That's the great thing about the internet. I wasn't born yet, or I would have been a suspect. Oh, I did, Mel. I'm sorry. Let me scroll up. I get talking and I miss things. I'm sorry about that. Hey, handsome, listen to me while I get Joshy ready for school. Say hello to Joshy from all of us. All right, question 9. The correct answer is C as in cat. Gary Francis Post. The police department believed that they had, well, at least one detective with the San Francisco Police Department said he thought that they had solved the Zodiac murders, and that it was Gary Francis Post. And then the San Francisco Chronicle ran with that because that's the media, ladies and gentlemen. Before you try and convict someone of a crime, you need to get out there and be the first ones with the evening news. Draw those eyes in on you. Get people to buy your newspapers because, well, that's what sells. Tragedy sells newspapers, and it sells, airtime on the evening news and makes everybody happy. So they ran with it before they actually had any real concrete evidence. And only thing that they were ever able to have against Gary Francis Post is circumstantial evidence at the best. If you want to talk about the case against Arthur Lee Allen, there is more evidence against him than there is against anyone else. Number one, first thing, the man was obsessed with ZODIAC, the watch, wristwatch. He wore the same size of shoe and the same type of shoe that were left behind at the murder scenes of both of the two murders that happened along the Lover's Lane in two different areas. The night of one of the murders, he was actually stopped speeding away from the area by an officer and got a speeding ticket. There's a lot of things like that add up that point, just like Robert Graysmith was convinced that it was, him, that he was a Zodiac because there was so much that, that pointed, at him. But they were just never, it was never enough to push it over the edge to say, look, that we can actually take him to court and prosecute him for being the Zodiac killer. Their only evidence, he has 3 names. I've been going through with it. Walmart totally screwing up my store delivery order. Oh, I'm sorry. All right, question number 10. If the Zodiac killer is alive today, it's highly unlikely, but he would be about how old in 2023, based on the approximate age of eyewitnesses and survivors? Would he be A, in his 70s, B, in his 90s, C, 55 exactly, or would he be D, 7 years old? If the Zodiac is alive in 2023, how old is the Zodiac? Approximately. So you could say approximately, he could be 56, 58, or he could be 7 or 9, if you're guessing in the low numbers. Be right back. Gotta drop them at school. Okay, Mel. Want B and lemon pie, Carly, Sal, and Marina are all going with B. E. You're only as old as you feel, says lemon pie. Mel Stiller, 80 to 85. B, says Claudia. Rebecca. My peeps, B. His great grandchildren might be 7. Some shoes. Thank you for the 144,000 years old. What happened to Inner Peas? I thought Inner Peas was here. Starfire, B. Mel's going with B. Starfire. His great-great-grandchildren. Great-grandchildren might be 7. My son's 7. I don't think he's a serial killer. Well, no, he doesn't like cereal. He likes waffles and French toast sticks. He don't like cereal. If he does eat cereal, he eats it dry. He won't eat it with milk. Unless it's hot cereal. Now, he does like Malt-O-Meal occasionally. but he's not a big fan of cereal. He's as old as he feels. It must have peased out. Question number 10. If the Zodiac Killer is alive today, it's highly unlikely, but he would be about how old in 2023? The correct answer is B as in boy, 90s. In the 1960s, they believed the Zodiac Killer, the approximate age was in his 30s. Late 20s, early 30s. That's pretty much the norm for most serial killers, though. When you take, the age and the race and everything else, and you put it all together, it usually is in their 20s or 30s. But that's how approximately how old the Zodiac Killer would be today. Was the Zodiac and killer in their late teens? Highly doubt it. Back then, because no one described the Zodiac Killer. No one saw a face except for the police, and using their description, they put him in early 30s. You take the other victims, they say that the voice and everything else, the mannerism, and then with the possible connection to the Navy, that means that they had to be at least 17, 18 years old to have been in the Navy, maybe a year in the Navy. That puts them into their 1920s. So, and then you add all the years on top of that between the 1960s to now. Well, in your 90s. No, I don't think he started killing in his teens. I don't think so either. But then again, we don't know. That's the thing. Is there have been several serial killers over the years that they started off their career, or their killing spree, and they had one method of MO, okay, for killing. They picked a certain type of victim. They killed in a certain way. They disposed of the bodies a certain way. They covered up their tracks of the crime in a certain way. And then for some reason, maybe they saw a crime show or read a book, or maybe if they just decided that the police were getting too close to them, so they've changed their total MO. There have been several serial killers who have done that. Right off the top of my head, Juan Corona was a serial killer who I can think of off the top of my head, who changed his methodology on everything. So he never went back to killing the same way again. He didn't hunt the same. He didn't look for him enough, the same way. But there have been several serial killers that have been like that over time. An MI and an MO? I don't like milk. Yuck. I like buttered grits, though. You put butter on your grits. That's okay. To each their own. Some people like it, some people don't. Some people just eat them dry, and they won't. And they won't eat no, quick grits either. It got to be slow cooked grits. All right, next. Did you know the Zodiac Killer didn't just send letters, make phone calls, and send ciphers to the police and to the media? The Zodiac Killer also sent cryptograms and worded puzzles that all spelled out, "I like to kill, it's fun." Yeah. Oh, question 11. As shocking as it may be, we may never know the exact number of victims claimed by the person behind the hooded mask of the Zodiac Killer. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit, that's what BAU stands for, however, has a number, but they believe may be close. What is it? Is it A, 50 to 57, B, 91, C, 30 to 37, or D, 68? As shocking as it may be, we may never know the exact number of victims claimed by the person behind the hooded mask of the Zodiac killings. The FBI Behavioral Analysis Unit, however, has a number they believe may be close. What is it? And you'll notice by the actual numbers that are there, are much, much larger than the actual ones that have been officially connected to the Zodiac, because they believe that he may have killed before and then after. Robert Graysmith believes that as well. Couldn't imagine being Robert Graysmith. The man was obsessed. He lost everything in his life and lived on a goddamn boat. And when he died, Robert Graysmith passed. He was broke. He had spent everything he had to try to come up and find the evidence behind who was the Zodiac killer. He was obsessed with it. Even though he tried to work, he tried to do other things. When he signed the book deal in 1985 to write the Zodiac, it was supposed to be 3 books in total. He never could complete the other 2 for it, and they ended up suing him. And I think he got divorced, or his wife or somebody, whoever he was with at the time, left him. It was all consuming to him. He did work a little bit here and there, to keep food on the table, have electricity and stuff like that. But it was an all-consuming thing to him. There are people that are like that. That they get obsessed, or they fall down that rabbit hole going after a story. It happens in law enforcement. It happens to reporters. It happens to people, even in true crime community. The average person just out here watching, videos and reading stories about true crime. They get obsessed, without even knowing it, that they're getting that way. Trying to prove, find the solution, find the answers to what happened to someone. There are people out there right now, and I hate to say it, that are absolutely obsessed with the Summer Wells case, and they will do anything and everything to try to prove who the murderer of Summer Wells is, or whatever happened to her. Same thing with JonBenet Ramsey. What happened to her? Who killed her? Who is responsible for? People fall down these rabbit holes all the time, and it can be ending, for a career in law enforcement if you can't get past it. Or if a journalist, hey, you need to go write this other story. No, I'm sorry, I'm too busy. I got this meeting with a confidential informant on this case, and they give up everything to chase that story, to solve that case. Some of them do. It might be a lifelong obsession, and other times it's just something that they can compartmentalize, and not chase down that rabbit hole. Oh yeah, it is, Mel Stiller. It really is. Or quick grits are an abomination. Well, likewise, I hate to say it, but at the same time, there are people who are absolutely obsessed with Christopher Watts, and they believe in his innocence, even though he confessed to it. Well, totally. If you count all of it, 3 times. Once at the Dodge Correction Center, once in Colorado, but then the time before that, he said that Shanann killed the girls, and then he killed Shanann. But even though he confessed to it and he pled guilty, took the plea deal, which is a guilty plea, there are people who believe that he was set up, and they really believe it. There are people who believe that Ted Bundy was a misunderstood man, that he didn't do half of the things that that the law enforcement and the media said he did. And one lady, She even snuck into the prison and had his kid. Stressing herself so badly, she passed away. Yeah. Grits are a little more coarse in texture and not quite as sweet. Some people add sugar to their grits, but I prefer not to. Grits come from finely ground corn. Don't they make another type of grits out of hominy? It's kind of like grits, or it's not quite like it's finely ground like that when it's dried. I'm no grits expert. Burn Bundy burn. My T-shirt. Yeah. John Benet Ramsey has been dead since 1996, I think, but they can't let her rest in peace. No, they can't, and that's the sad thing about the internet, ladies and gentlemen. We want these people to shut the hell up and stop dragging the victims through the damn mud, and harassing their families. We want that. But at the same time, in America, if it's a very slippery slope, you start, censoring some people like that. It's tomorrow afternoon they're coming after me, or they're coming after somebody else over another case. You're back. Oh, that was quick, Mel. Oh my God, didn't like the hominy either. All right, question 11. The correct answer is C, as in cat. The Behavioral Analysis Unit with the FBI believes that the Zodiac killer may have as many as 30 to 35, somewhere in there, maybe 37 total victims. They don't believe the very first attack and murder of that the Zodiac committed. They don't believe that was the first. It may have been the second, but they also believe that there are other murders that the Zodiac may have committed that matched before and afterwards. But the Zodiac never sent letters about them to take, to claim that they were his. And the Zodiac got pretty bored with the police department and the media after a while, because they weren't giving him, the Zodiac killer, what the Zodiac wanted, which was attention. He wanted everybody to be fearful of, his next attack. So even if it was, something outlandish, like I'm going to blow up a school bus full of children, was a Zodiac really going to do that? No. Highly unlikely, but you never know. You don't know for sure. Maybe the Zodiac could have done it, but it was outlandish enough. It's like, oh, I'm killing, lovers on Lover's Lane. I'm going to go from that to blowing up a school bus full of children. Take me seriously and publish my damn letters and give me attention, is what the Zodiac wanted. And as it went on from the first murder onward through, the Zodiac, even making phone calls and letters and everything else that they were doing, media was kind of like, if we just stop publishing them, what are they going to do? They're going to keep on killing it. This person's going to keep on killing anyways. So, ransom note though, the letter about the wanting to blow up the school bus full of children never happened. Moonlight View. There was no ransom letter or anything else. It was just a threat that he put in one of the letters, that he was going to, if they didn't start publishing his letters, he said, this is what I'm going to do if you don't publish my letter. Yeah, he was an attention seeker. That is definitely true. All right, next. Since the early 1970s, there have been plenty of copycat crimes like the Zodiacs. There have been plenty of people who claimed a dead loved one was the Zodiac. How many fake letters have there been since the early 1970s? A, 2 dozen, B, 1 dozen, C, a baker's dozen, or D, a mountain lion load of them? How many fake letters have been sent to the media and to law enforcement since the early 1970s. Because it's a two-sided sword, ladies and gentlemen. As soon as they started publishing them and started talking about the Zodiac, the copycats came out of the woodwork. People seeking attention, trying to claim that they were it. And then as time went on, people said, my uncle, my dad, my brother, the creepy guy who lived down the street from me. People started pointing the finger at people all over the place. And this took up so much law enforcement time for them to trace down all these leads and people who kept on saying it was this person or that person who was a Zodiac killer, or that they were the Zodiac killer. A homicide happened on such and such street, and it was only one person. It turns out it was, a boyfriend who murdered his girlfriend. Then he sent a letter into the newspaper and claimed to be the Zodiac. Copycats and things like this happen, and it took away from the time. No wonder why eventually, they never did catch the Zodiac, because things like that happen. But how many fake letters were received from the early 1970s onward? And this information, the answer to this question is able to be found on the FBI's actual website. If you search the Zodiac murders, you can find this information online yourself. How many fake letters, copycat letters have been out there? Claimed the dead loved one was a Zodiac. How many fake letters have there been since the early 1970s? You have ABCs. Mel-Mel's even going with D. Mel-Mel might be right. A mountain lion load of them. It could be. Cheryl, good evening, Cheryl. Welcome to tonight's trivia. How many questions are there? Carly, there are 18 questions, 6 more after this. Always 18 questions, 16 numbered questions, and 2 bonus questions. Marina is like, I think it might be D. Might be D. Might be a mountain lion load of them. An elephant load. Belle's going to go with, I'm trying A. All right, question number 12. The correct answer for question 12 is A as in apple. 24 fake letters have been received by either the media or law enforcement since the early 1970s. Of the letters that have been sent to the media, they were sent to 3 separate newspaper outlets in and around the San Francisco Bay Area. Unlike the original Zodiac, who wrote mainly to just the San Francisco Chronicle, these letters were sent to smaller independent papers like the Village Times and stuff like that in and around the area. But it's 24. It's the total number of letters that were reportedly from the Zodiac since the early 1970s. I'd guess C, but because I have a sweet tooth, a baker's dozen. All right, next. Did you know? Earlier, we learned that Robert Graysmith, the author of the novel Zodiac, believed the killings never stopped until 1989. At that, the Zodiac killer just got bored of the police and media. But did you know that two such murders that took place in 1986 both were followed by fake Zodiac letters. Those crimes were believed to be now copycat crimes or murders that were unconnected to the Zodiac killer. Both murders were different. One was a stabbing, one was by gunshot. Both murders are still, as of 2023, unsolved and are considered cold cases. Now, the letters that were sent, these fake letters, they either referenced somebody who it pointed like, okay, this is a Zodiac writing you, or contacting you. But then the letter went on to say that this is who is responsible, or this is where you can find the responsible party. The person who is a Zodiac who killed these people hangs out at this place, but they were fake letters. They didn't ever reference the actual crimes, where the Zodiac always dropped, in the letters that he wrote, references to the crimes that this is the crime that I just committed. This is a Zodiac. This is the crime that I just committed, and it would describe them. Where these letters clearly were fake, but they were written in the style like the Zodiac, but we don't know if they were written by somebody trying to throw the police off. But both of those murders in 1986, both got a letter immediately afterwards claiming responsibility or telling them who the responsible party was, but it wasn't the Zodiac. That's for another show, my dear. I have my own theory about that ransom note. All right, next. October 30th, 1966, the first official victim murdered by the Zodiac killer was confirmed to have taken place. Who was it? Was it A, Dennis Naslund, B, Sherry Joe Bates, C, Candace Oat, or D, Catherine Eddowes? Who was the very first victim of the official victim of the Zodiac killer? October 30th, 1966. Question number 13. Lemon pie, I'll go with D. So the choose is going with A. That's the world we live in, ladies and gentlemen. Every time there's a high profile case, people want to be involved. They want to be connected to it. Using the example I used before, talking about Christopher Watts. What came out of Christopher Watts? How many people, wanted to be connected to that? Some of them are still talking about it today because they believe that they have some kind of insight into it, or they found some new information. And then there was people like Trent Bowles, who said that he was Christopher Watts' homosexual lover. And then when the police confronted him about it, he rolled over like a puppy dog and said, "I'm sorry, I know, I lied." But he wanted to be connected to this high profile case. It happens all the time. People interject themselves either into the investigation, or they want to talk about how that they're related to it, or how that they're part of it. It happens all the time. Have a high profile case that happens in a small town America. First person is going to come out of the woodwork is the guy with 3 teeth in his head, and wants to tell you all about it. B, mine to have Betty Lou. Claudia's going with B. Oh my God, my notes are horrible. B. I thought there were two victims, not only one. Who was the first official victim? Somebody has to be the first person murdered. There might have been two murders at the same time. Maybe one died and the other one died later on. Maybe one survived. I mean, we know Brian Hartman survived. Apparently, Brian Hartman is now an attorney, and I wish Brian Hartman the best. I couldn't imagine living through something like that, though. Zodiac, Zodiac, Zodiac. Record! Just joining in, guys. Darn, I missed most of Sunday evening's trivia. That's all right, Ricard. You can always watch and rewind. That's the best thing about this, playing trivia is you can go to the playlist and you can watch weeks worth of trivia night back to back to back. Just go to the playlist. It's right there on my main channel. Scroll down, right underneath, upcoming live streams. Right there is a whole playlist. You can click on the word playlist on whatever device you're watching it on and watch them all. And there are a lot of them. I should add, one of these days, I keep on telling me, I got to add these up to try to figure out just how many trivia nights I've done. And every single one that I have done, I have truly enjoyed doing. And I hope you guys understand that. It's a lot of work, but I really enjoy these because this is relaxing to me. I get to learn, you get to learn something. It's all great. I thought it was Betty Lou Jensen and David Farley were first, but that was in December of 1968. Yeah, thank God for YouTube replay. Right? All right, question number 13. The correct answer is B as in boy, Sherry Joe Bates. Sherry Joe Bates is the first victim, October 30th, 1966, of the Zodiac killer. Meanwhile, I'm making bacon, eggs, and toast sandwiches. Ooh, that sounds good. It's not that hard, Mel Stiller. I mean, it is a lot of work. I do, I start before I actually have the trivia night. Like I already have my question that I post to the community tab on Friday before I post it on Monday. And then so there's like an overlap of like 3 or 4 days between the two. So I already have almost all the questions for next week done. I think I have like maybe 4 or 5 left to do for next week. So I just keep on working on them. I do there's like 2 or 3 different trivia nights that I'm working on all at the same time. So yeah, it is a lot of work. The ones that are more work is where it's not on just one subject matter and it's multiple different people. All right, question 14. Although a lot of fake letters were sent to police and newspapers in the early months of 1978, the last official letter was received by the Zodiac killer. What did he title this letter? Did he title it My Confession? B, My Need to Kill More? C, This is the Real Zodiac? Or D, This is the Zodiac Speaking? Although a lot of fake letters were sent to police and newspapers in the early months of 1978, the last official real letter was received from the Zodiac killer. What did this letter say? What was it titled? And to this day, no one, not even Robert Graysmith, in all of his theories about why all of a sudden in 1978, the last official letter from the Zodiac was ever received. Did the real Zodiac, was it not Arthur Allen Lee? And if it was somebody else, did that person die? Were they incarcerated in 78? Was it, did he spend his entire life going down this rabbit hole trying to prove this one man was the Zodiac, and it just happened to be an awful lot of circumstantial evidence that pointed at one person? Why did the letters stop in 1978? And with that, that's one question. You put that into a box, okay? And then there were murders all the way through up until 1989 that happened up and down the California coast in California that had pretty much the same method of Miranda, the MO, modus operandus. Got tongue tied, but where these could have been Zodiac murders, and if they were, why didn't the Zodiac ever reach out? Why didn't the Zodiac take responsibility for them? Because the Zodiac wanted attention. So at the same time, even Robert Graysmith was like, they all look like the Zodiac, especially those two in 1986. Originally looked like they were probably the Zodiac, but then there were other ones that happened in the San Francisco Bay Area, and going up around from Oakland, San Francisco, and going up around that area along the coast. And they're like, is it the Zodiac? So even Robert Graysmith, even though he tried to prove it with Arthur Allen Lee, the whole time, even he had to admit at some point, even to himself, even if he didn't do it publicly, why did the Zodiac stop? Why did he stop writing letters to the media and to the police department? Why didn't he reach out to him? Write him a letter, right? Because everybody in California knew that Robert Graysmith was on this. He wasn't going to give up. Well, I mean, I would assume that probably not everyone, but an awful lot of people knew about that he was on it, and that he was investigating it. Brisket sandwiches. Ooh, delish. That sounds good. I haven't had brisket in a while because he was moving around up and down the East Coast. That was one of the theories, if this was the, it's one of the theories that the Zodiac became mobile and didn't want to be in one location. I mean, and if you take the ones that were, I'm trying to word this in a way where I'm not going to give off the clue or the answer to some of the questions that are coming up. Late 60s and 70s, though, the 90s was some serial killer good times, right? Yeah, but the Zodiac could have become mobile. But why'd the letter stop in 78? Even if it was, Arthur Lee, let's just say it was him. He wasn't underneath 24-hour, surveillance. He lived an awful lot longer. He could have mailed a letter at any time. He could have sent another letter if it was him. He could have sent one before his deathbed, before he died. But he never did. There was no official letter after 1978. All right, but question number 14, the correct answer is D as in dog. D as in dog for number 14. This is the Zodiac speaking. Most of the letters started off with, this is the Zodiac speaking. There was one ciphered letter that he wrote in that was part of the second group that said that this was his confession. And in that letter, all it talked about was enjoying killing. But they didn't know about that until way later. But that was sent back in the 60s because they couldn't decipher the letters. All right, next one. Did you know modus operandi, MO, When you dig into the MO of the Zodiac killer, 5 things always stand out. One victim, um, one, the victim, all but one, the cabbie, were shot or attacked, stabbed near a body of water. Next one. 2, they were all couples. 3, the woman was always the first one stabbed or shot. 4, the Zodiac killer always had a gun on his side and a knife out when he first attacked. He only shot those who didn't comply. And 5, the Zodiac killer always wore a black hood. A black hood that a lot of people describe as an executioner's hood from the medieval times. Always. Even if you go back and look at the description that was that came from eyewitnesses and from Brian Hartman. They described a leather pouch on his side that had the handgun in it, but the knife was always out first. Even the one that they shot in, at point blank range, he had the knife out first. Creeping death. All right, next. September 27th, 1969, Cecilia and Brian Hartnell were attacked and stabbed by the Zodiac killer. What type of weapon was used? Was it A, a hunting knife, B, a hatchet, C, a World War II bayonet, or D, a homemade knife? September 27th, 1969. Cecilia and Brian Hartnell were attacked and stabbed by the Zodiac killer. What type of weapon was used? A's, B's, C's, A. Quite a few A's. A hunting knife. Question number 15. A plastic spork. That's a good one, lemon pie. A spork. One piece was said to have broken off. Was it a piece of the spork? Gotta watch out for people who attack you with a spork. I think in this case, or a curved knife. My peeps is going with C. September 27th, 1969. Cecilia and Brian Hartnell were attacked and stabbed by the Zodiac. What type of weapon was used? It may have been a spork. Could have been. Maybe it was. We'll have to wait and see. I lean towards C, but I'll go with A, says Cheryl. Sporks are fantastic. I got some of those. I don't think they call them sporks. I have 2 or 3 of them in the house. MRE ration, like fork spoons. They're kind of like a spork, but they had longer times on them. That and the little tiny spoons that they used to have in the MREs. Kid you not, I have a whole refrigerator just outside my studio with MREs from from Vietnam War MREs. Tries and ties the killer to Taco Bell or of KFC. Cheryl Pugh, I was the same way. I was leaning towards C, but went with A since Marina. All right, question number 15. A couple of you are going to probably hate this, but the correct answer is C as in cat, a World War II bayonet. According to the forensic evidence that was left behind from the stab wound, that it was most consistent with a bayonet knife, not a hunting knife, but a bayonet. That is a double-sided knife that was used in trench warfare that was put on the end of a rifle, a bayonet, not an actual hunting knife, would only have a blade on one side and a serrated wood cutting side on the top. But it was a bayonet with each side had a blade to it. Nope. That's what's in the actual record. I'm not kidding. All right, question 16. Which murder confirmed to be done by the Zodiac killer is unlike any other murder because of the location, the victim, the time of day, and the day of the week? Was it A, the murder of Paul Stein, B, the murder of Jennifer Jones, C, the murder of Darlene Ferrin, or D, the murder of Sherry Joe Bates? Isn't it a pointed musket? No, musket is the actual rifle, Marina. The bayonet would have been fixed to the end of an M1 carbine rifle, World War II. But which murder was unlike any other murder that is connected to the Zodiac because of the location, the victim, the time of day, and the day of the week? Which one? And I'm going with Sherry. Cherry Joe Bates. Kitty Koo is going with C. Darlene Ferrin. Claudia is going with D. Doop-a-doop-a-doop. I'm all out of tea. I'm switching to coffee. Murder. Which murder connected to the Zodiac was unlike any of the other murders? Sal's going with A, Mel's going with C, Marina, Rodcart C, Mel Stiller's going with D. Question number 16. The correct answer to question 16 is A as in apple. The cab driver, Paul Stein, was murdered on a busy street in the early evening hours, and the law enforcement, when they arrived, were told to look out for an African-American male because of the eyewitness testimony, and they talked to him and let him go. They came that close to actually catching the Zodiac because he was a white man. They were looking for an African American, is what they were told. They came that close. They actually spoke to him and let him go. But he wasn't an African American man. That's what they were looking for. Was an assailant, was an African American man. What they were, the dispatch relayed to the officers. And they describe him as a clean cut, heavier set white male. And again, the description nails Arthur Allen Lee, down to a T. But again, that's just another piece of coincidental, circumstantial evidence that they can't prove that he actually killed the cab driver, but the Zodiac did. The eyewitness testimony puts, something else there. And, any defense attorney worth a grain of salt would have gotten that entire eyewitness testimony tossed out. But again, just another piece on the pile that just says, look, this is who the Zodiac killer was. Tunnel vision at work, yeah. All right, bonus question. July 1971, Santo Panzarella walked into his local police department with a story to tell. He knew things about the Zodiac killing police never released. Where did he get this information? Was it A, he was the real Zodiac killer? B, Don Cheney, Alan Lee's best friend? C, digging online web sleuth? Or D, a confession from an inmate in jail? July of 1971, Santos Panzarella walked into the police department with a story to tell. He knew things about the Zodiac killing police never released. Where did he get his information from? What bonus question number 1. Couldn't remember his name, but figured it was the cabbie, so I picked the only male choice. There you go. Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. Oh my God. OJ is innocent, people. He was found not guilty. If you don't believe that money can buy you freedom in this world, we all know OJ did it. OJ knows he did it, but he got away with it. If the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. No internet in 1971. Ooh, see? Starfire's using deductive reasoning. D, LOL, D, and D. Stop trying on those damn gloves. Yeah, it's really hard to put on a glove when you spread your fingers open wide like that. I don't know if you guys put gloves on like that. That's the way I do it. I spread my fingers open wide and then I try to force them on my hand. Yeah, the gloves don't fit, you must acquit. Oh, okay. E, from a mountain lion and O.J. Simpson. Lemon pie is changing to B. Yo. Yeah. Homer Simpson's in the house. Homer Simpson did it. No. July of 1971, Santo Panzarella walked into the police department with a story to tell. He knew things about the Zodiac killings police never released. And they weren't in the media either. But where did he get his information? Ladies and gentlemen, the answer to the bonus question number 1 is B as in boy. His Arthur Allen Lee's best friend Don Cheney told him all about it and implicated Arthur Allen Lee in it. and he relayed the story to the police department. Another pile of circumstantial evidence that was against the man, but he knew details about the murders and locations and where people were murdered at the scene and how everything transpired. He knew information that was never released by the police or the media. And again, more circumstantial evidence against the one man, but still not enough to take him to court and try to prove in a court of law that he was the Zodiac killer. Johnny Cochran told him from Little Green Aliens, "Hi all, sprinkled donuts. I'm not getting notifications. Oh, I'm sorry, sprinkled donuts. You might need to go into your settings on whatever device you're watching on, and see if it's allowing notifications. Sometimes if you turn off notifications on your cell phone, it will turn it off for tablets and for your PC, or vice versa and around. If you turn it off on a PC, it might turn it off for notifications on other devices as well. I'm sorry you're not getting notifications, sprinkled donuts. All right, next bonus question. But I hope you had a great weekend, though, and thank you for stopping by. How many times did the Zodiac killer call law enforcement and the press to tell them what he had actually done? Was it A, 4 times that are known, B, 8 times that are known, C, 2 times that are known, or D, 12 times that are known? How many times did the Zodiac call the police and the newspapers to let them know what he had done? In case you're wondering, the last letter was in 1968 or 78 or 68, whatever it was. Well, whatever. The last phone call by the Zodiac to law enforcement and the newspapers was on July 5th, 1969. The call lasted a total of 2 minutes and was made from a payphone next to a supermarket. July 5th, 1969. The call lasted a little over 2 minutes. The call was sent to the Vallejo, how do you pronounce that? Vallejo Police Department headquarters. Not to a police department, but to the actual headquarters of the police department. Vallejo? Did I pronounce it? Vallejo? Vallejo? I guess that's how you pronounce it. Vallejo. To the Vallejo Police Department headquarters. July 5th, 1969. Little over 2 minutes. They were able to trace it to a general location, and there was only one payphone in that general location. But there, of course, was nobody there when they got there. Technology today, we can track your cell phone a hell of a lot quicker than that, or your home phone. It takes mere seconds now to read the pings off the towers. July 5th, 1969. So nothing about Jack Terrence? I'm shocked. LOL. Didn't make the questions. Not as easy these days with cameras everywhere. That is true. No cell phone back then. Dang. Yeah. A lot of people think that if they remove the battery from their cell phone, that it stops transmitting a signal. That's not exactly correct. Even if you remove the battery from your cell phone, until the capacitors have discharged completely, the cell phone still sends out a ping. So it is, Moonlight says it is pronounced Vallejo or Valho. Vallejo. I'm terrible with pronouncing things, especially if I only see them like the first time or they're new to me. It's like, what the hell did that even say? I even spelled my name wrong. I'm not joking. I have an old copy of my driver's license where I put too many L's in my own damn signature. That happened. Didn't notice it until years later. I think I was going to get a passport or something. And have my photo taken for the passport, and they need to see my ID. And the guy looks at it. And he's like, "You have 3 L's in your name." And I'm like, "No, I don't." He's like, "Yeah, you do. You signed your name with 3 L's." And I did. Like a dumbass. All right. How many times did the Zodiac killer call law enforcement and the press to tell them what he'd actually done? The correct answer, ladies and gentlemen, is A as in apple. 4 times. 4 times. On the very last call that lasted little over 2 minutes, that was placed on July 5th, 1969 to the police headquarters, no one took his call. He called, and then the switchboard operator transferred the call, and no one picked up. And then they realized, oh shit, it's the Zodiac calling. We might want to pay attention to this. But no one actually picked up the call after the switchboard operator transferred the call. That's why it took a little over 2 minutes and probably pissed off, once and for all, why didn't the Zodiac write any more letters or call anymore, communicate with the media anymore? He was sick and tired of them by that point. That's at least what Robert Graysmith figured. All right, next. Did you know, this is not a question, this is just bonus information. Did you know the Zodiac letters have not all been deciphered? The letters fall into 3 groups. Each group of coded messages different from the last group. The first group code was broken by a school teacher who loved crossword puzzle. It's actually husband and wife, but they give credit to the school teacher. The second group was broken in 2020 by 3 men working together along with a supercomputer. The last group has never been broken and has been worked on since 1974 when they got this third group, because they put them into 3 separate groups because they're written in 3 different, well, they're basically the same code, but they're different and how you break the actual decipher. The FBI and the Department of Justice, who are the only ones actively on file on the case. California lists the Zodiac murders as open but cold. The DOJ and the FBI consider the Zodiac case open, and they are actively still working on it, but they have yet to break the last code for the last series of letters. Now, no letter that has been deciphered so far has any information on who the Zodiac is. Maybe he is actually in the last group, and it's just taken the police so damn long and law enforcement so damn long to break the last one that they'll never be able to. Because if they've been working on it since 1974 and they still can't break it, well, what kind of hope is there out there? Maybe it's an unbreakable decipher of gibberish, and the last series of letters don't mean anything at all. We don't know. All right. How well did you do in the trivia tonight? This is completely optional, ladies and gentlemen. You do not have to give yourself a grade. Did you get 12 to 16 correct? Pretty damn good. B, did you get 8 to 11 of them correct? Besides trick questions, not bad. And the trick questions would mean giving you a slide with the information before the question. Did you get 4 to 7? Just here to hang 10 and chat. D, did you get 1 to 3 correct? Waiting. Wait, this was a trivia game? Or were you E, mountain lion, always a mountain lion? Add 2 points for the bonus questions, and 4 if you got both of them correct. 2 points for each of the bonus questions tonight, as opposed to just one, because both of them were little. Even though they said they're level 5, I didn't know the answers to them, and I know an awful lot about the damn Zodiac, and I didn't know those ones. Keep in mind, this is completely optional. You do not have to give yourself a grade. No one is better at this game than anyone else. Some people use the internet. Some people use deductive reasoning. Some people have just read about this case more than others. Of the 18 questions, including the 2 bonus questions, which I had absolutely no clue on, of just taking the original 16, I only knew 9 of the 16 before I put this together tonight. One additional thing that I wanted to point out about the cabbie, the murder of the cabbie Paul Stein, and how it differentiates. It's different from any other murder. Is the Zodiac killer actually stole items from the cab driver? He stole his driver's license, and he stole pieces of the actual like shirt, and he mailed them to the media to make sure that they knew that it was definitely him, that this wasn't someone else. So he mailed these things back to him along with it, to prove that this is really the Zodiac. Take me seriously. But it's one of the only crimes that, well, there's other ones that happened, one before and one later on, not the ones from 1986, but another one that took place later on after 79, that an item was stolen from the actual victim themselves, and it was never sent to the media, never sent to the police, but an item was stolen. But in all the crimes, nothing was ever stolen from them. What made this cab driver so special that the Zodiac would go out of his way to do it in a location where there's going to be eyewitnesses in a time of day, and the police were going to be able to respond, as opposed to a rural area where all the other ones had taken place out on Lover's Lane or near a lake. Don't know. Maybe the cab driver knew too much, or had maybe picked him up or dropped him off, or said, "Hey, you look like the Zodiac," or maybe that was it, and it triggered him to do it. But either way, the murder of Paul Stein is a completely unique murder from all the rest of them. Oh, thank you, Mel. I appreciate it. Okay, I got 0. There you go. Hey, maybe on the next one, my meeps, you might do a heck of a lot better. I'm always taking suggestions for trivia nights, for the topics. Right now, I'm not saying that these are next, but right now I'm working on one of mob bosses, and I'm gonna cement shoes if you're still here. I'm gonna throw in the one about the only mob boss to be the last mob boss to be killed in prison. Family Annihilators, Paul Bernardo, Lori and Chad Dumbbell. These are trivia ones that I'm working on right now. Those ones are coming up, but I'm not saying that any of those are next. John Benet Ramsey. I'll write it down. Mob bosses are interesting. Ramsey. John Benet Ramsey. Maybe he didn't want to pay for his ride. Yeah, could have been. I mean, could have just got out and ran. kind of like, version of, dine and ditch. Could have just pulled up and then took off running. Maybe the Zodiac has an issue with running. Don't know. I mean, I'm guessing right now. See, now if y'all remember what Cement Shoes just said there, when I do the mob boss one, write that down, so you'll get that question correct. But I'm always. Anybody, is there anything else that interests you guys that you'd like to see a trivia night done on? Another case, another serial killer, murderer, spree killer, family annihilator. I'm always open to suggestions. Where most of these come from. If they don't come from that, I'm gonna pick one out of here. Will, have you done trivia about Israel Keys? Yes, Marina, I have. A fairly recent serial killer and fascinating subject. He had killed kids hidden in various states and had no modus of operandi. At least you think he didn't. Yes, I have done Israel Keys this year, actually. If you go on my channel and you go back, I think Israel Keys might have been in June-ish. Might have been May. But yeah, have I done Ted Bundy? Sprinkled Donuts? I have done Ted Bundy before, but Ted Bundy's he's a lot of interesting things about Teddy. I'm going to write Ted Bundy back down on the list, though. Thank you for the suggestion. Kaylee Anthony, not going to happen. I can't stand her. Sorry. Kaylee Anthony. I just want to know that somebody, finally, put her in her place in an unmarked grave next to, no one. I feel so bad for what she did to her family and to her daughter. But hey, she's a private detective. Am I still home alone, Reichardt? I am. Until tomorrow. August of 21. Was it that long ago? Ooh. See? That probably is true. I mean, thank you, Cement Shoes. I mean, time flies when you're having fun, ladies and gentlemen. And I really do. I have fun at this. Yeah. A private detective. Yeah. She'll help you find out who killed your kids. No. I have no idea what kind of cases that she's doing though, but I know she has an actual business license. I think she had to go through some kind of training course, at least to be bonded. But I don't know if you had to have any kind of firearms training or anything like that, or if she had to go to like some kind of 2-day course on how to be a gumshoe detective. I don't know. I just know that's what she's doing. And she said she was going to investigate, what happened to her daughter. I'm not joking. She actually put out a YouTube video. You can find it on YouTube about her talking to a local news station about she was going to reopen the case into what happened to her daughter to find out who killed her. I was just like, oh. Something about gangsters would be fun. Mob bosses, gangsters. I don't think her detective work worked out for her anymore. Can't imagine why. She sucks. Wouldn't hire her to find a lost bus schedule. Did she get training to be a human being? Well, she did up until I don't know. I don't know about you guys, but when I think of Kate, her daughter. When I think about her daughter in the case itself, the one thing when I close my eyes that is burned into my memory is the pictures and the videos of her partying and getting drunk with all the and doing beer bongs with her friends at that party while her daughter was missing. Now we all know what happened to her daughter and where she was, but she could have cared less. It's like Leilani Simon in Georgia. I don't know. I'll never understand how people can hurt children. I've met a lot of children in this world. I've met some pretty rotten ones. I've met some that have been abused, and they had everything in their lives, working against them, and they all turned out to, at some point, they turned it around for themselves, and would never hurt another child or another adult or anybody. And I've yet to meet any child that is really seriously damaged. I mean, I've met a lot of them that have been damaged, but not to the point where they couldn't be redeemed and they couldn't have free will. I mean, I've met some that I'm pretty sure are going to eventually become serial killers themselves, and if they're not medicated or got the right therapy or intervention, but eventually they did. So as far as I know, they're not out killing right now. Stop the cycle. That's what I did. There you go. Dillinger, John Dillinger, Bonnie and Clyde, Dillinger. Bonnie and Clyde, John Dillinger. And thank you, Mel, for stopping the cycle. Well, I've had you all here for way too long already. I'm going to say good night to you all. Quickly, give this a thumbs up if you would, if you enjoyed tonight's trivia. I appreciate each and every one of you stopping in and playing along on the trivia tonight. Don't forget, in case you want to follow up what's going to be next week's, tomorrow on Monday, I post a trivia question on my community tab here on YouTube. By 10 a.m. in the morning, I'll have a trivia question for, that kind of gives you an idea what the next one is going to be about. And then about an hour after that, there should be a notification. If you're a subscriber, you should get a notification of when the next trivia night is. So thank you again, everyone, for stopping in and playing the trivia game with us tonight. I hope that everyone has a wonderful week ahead and stay safe out there. Thank you again. Nah. Moonlight, there's nothing wrong with mentioning, Brian or anybody else. If I had a connection to one of the victims who survived, that'd be cool. And I'd tell everybody too. There's nothing wrong with telling me about that or anybody else. Don't take my comment about people wanting to be connected to a story the wrong way. I'm talking about people who, in that circumstances, I gave two examples of people who were not connected to the stories, who interjected themselves into the stories because they wanted people to look at them. And that's why they did. Like the Trent Bowles. in the Christopher Watts example. It has nothing to do with you. If you know Brian, you've met him, and I'm happy as hell that he's had a fruitful life, beyond that. That would scar a lot of people for life, and to completely destroy everything going forward. But I'm happy as hell that Brian has been able to turn his life and go in a different direction. So no need to apologize for saying anything at all about Brian. Everyone, have a good one, and thank you again. Bye.